Seated. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Brothers and sisters in Christ, we continue as we have through the summer, hearing these readings from the Gospel according to St. Matthew. And as I've been emphasizing in these readings and throughout the summer, the hallmark and the focal point of Matthew's Gospel is this question of discipleship. What does it mean to follow Jesus Christ? And most of these stories that we've been hearing up to this point have been miracles of some sort. Miracles over nature, healing illness, or in the instance that we just heard, casting out a demon. Well, this particular story occurs in a sequence. And it's just a happenstance how it landed on this particular Sunday. Because if you're reading the Gospel, immediately before this is the story of the Transfiguration, which we celebrated in our church the night before, earlier this week, on Wednesday evening. So at Wednesday night's liturgy, we heard the story of the Transfiguration. Jesus Christ going on the mountain with Peter, James, and John, and of course having the appearance of Moses and Elijah. And so the contrast we have is, we'll use that nice phrase, we go from the sublime on the Transfiguration to this story, the ridiculous. So as Jesus is coming down the hill with Peter, James, and John, they join the other 9 apostles. And they walk into this scene, and it's basically a mess. We do get more of the details on this particular story in the accounts of this story in the other evangelists. So in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, there's more detail given than we get here. We actually hear that story from the Gospel according to Mark on the 4th Sunday of Great Lent. So earmark that for the spring. We'll come back to this story then. So part of what has happened as we hear is there's this father, and he has a son who is demon-possessed. Now, of course, in our contemporary translation, it says that he is epileptic. And we understand that as neurological disorder, seizures. But in the older translations, and if you look actually at the original Greek, it says he was moonstruck. And so it's this whole thing of being under the power of forces associated with the moon. And it's very clear that how this is presented, Jesus is not healing the boy. He's casting a demon out of the boy. But the problem is the father of this boy has brought him to the disciples. He says, heal him. And they're unable to heal him. And there's a crowd around them. And part of it is you have kind of this just whatever crowd, as Jesus has, people showing up. What's happening here? But it's turned somewhat adversarial. Can they do it? Can they not do it? And of course, some of the villains are there. We hear about the scribes often in these stories. Mark talks about this. And so they're there taking notes. What's going wrong here? And so it's turned into this ridiculous thing. Jesus Christ has given the apostles the power to cast out demons already. And they have already gone out and done this on a mission that he sends them on. They can do this. It's just in this instance, they fail. And so Jesus says this, just kind of this, oh faithless generation, how long am I going to be with you? This exasperated statement. It's kind of this general reprimand. What's wrong with the father? He's doubting that anyone can heal his boy. What's wrong with the disciples because they can't do this healing? And what's wrong with this crowd? They just don't believe. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to rebuke the spirit. Here you go. Your son's all better. Go. He handles it. And then we hear this private conversation that Jesus has with the disciples afterwards. And to be clear, because Peter, James, and John have been with Jesus, it's the other 9 that are kind of on the hot seat. But someone in that group of the 9 says, why couldn't we do this? And Jesus points out 3 things here. The key one, you don't believe. It's your unbelief that prevents you from doing this. And then he makes this other statement. They're talking about the particular kind of demon. So it's highlighting this thing that there are different levels of demons, and some stronger than others, and kind of making this point that this was probably a stronger sort of demon that they encountered. You needed to be better prepared. He says this only comes out through prayer and fasting. So they didn't pray and they didn't fast beforehand. But it gets to this question of unbelief, more so. We can talk about prayer and fasting in a moment. They failed because of their unbelief. Now this is a little different. How we understand this for us, we tend not to be involved in these sorts of things where we're dealing with going out and having to cast demons out of people. But we have hardships we encounter. We have tests of our faith daily. And it's in those circumstances where we're struggling with something where it's a test of our faith, that's probably more real for us. But it's a similar sort of thing. Why do we struggle so much in certain instances? Well, often a key part of that is unbelief. We don't believe. And I know our tendency in our contemporary society is, well, I just need to clench my jaw, grit my teeth, and just believe harder. It's this thing of just, I'll force myself. Willpower. Somehow having faith is willpower. It's not. Another way that we think of faith is trust. That's a good alternative word there. Do we trust in God? Well, you can, scrunch up your face and all of this. I don't know what's going on here. Somebody keeps texting me. I try to have this muted, but it's becoming a distraction. Okay, phone's on. It gets me off track. Where was I? Our struggles. And our struggles with faith that we might have. And the difficult circumstances we might find ourselves in. It is the sort of thing where often I'll have conversations with people. And they'll come to me and they'll say, Father, I don't know about my faith. I'm struggling with my faith. I don't feel the presence of God. I don't feel my faith. I'm not sure if God is there. And it's an honest, authentic statement. But the mistake in this is that how you feel about God, and if you feel or don't feel the presence of God as the barometer of your faith, it's notoriously inaccurate. And this is something that we've inherited from, kind of the Western Christianity, where you get stirred up when you go to church and you listen to music that makes you feel a certain way, and the words make you feel a certain way. And they whip up how you are emotionally. The way we need to think about our faith and our trust in God is how we think of being in a relationship with someone. The obvious one, for most of us, is our marriage. I think we can all say we love our spouses, but there are certain days we really don't like them. You know what I'm talking about. You're committed to that marriage. You're committed to that relationship. You love one another. But oh my gosh, they left the lid off the toothpaste again. Or they left that thing on the counter in the kitchen. You've told them 20 times. You don't really feel it in that moment. Does that mean that you stop loving them? No, you have a relationship. How we trust and how we have faith in God is what sort of relationship we have with God. So what do we do to have a relationship? So if we have things that bother us, say in our marriage, We can have that 21st conversation with our spouse and say, it really annoys me. You did it again. Can you please put the cap on the toothpaste? Can you please clear that thing off the counter? We engage in that. We try and have a conversation. And strong, healthy marriages. At some point I need to do like a marriage retreat. Strong, healthy marriages are strong and healthy because we invest up front in making sure that the relationship is good on an ongoing basis. It's the consistency of the relationship that we have that we work on. So when people do come to me and they say, Father, I don't know if I feel if God's there. It feels like he's missing. He's not there. I don't feel him. I usually will ask the question, how's your prayer life? Are you saying your daily prayers out of your prayer book? Get up in the morning, pull your prayer book out, say your prayers. It's not about how you feel about those prayers. It's not whether you're resonating with the prayers. It's not whether or not you feel dry reading those prayers, or whether your heart is just full of joy reading those prayers. You're showing up consistently. You're doing that daily. And in that, it's more about you and what that effect has on you than any sort of effect that you're trying to have on God. It's not by doing those prayers that somehow you're like appeasing God or like making some point and all of that. The basic point in all of this is God's always there. You may not feel like it. You may not perceive it. You may not be in the mood for that. But God is always there. And we get very tangible on this sort of thing. I make this point. This is something we work on with the kids. They're like after liturgy, they like to go this side of the church, that side of the church, this side of the church. We're like, don't run in church. And part of what we try and emphasize is when you cross the center line of the church, you're walking in front of, we have in here, the body and blood of Christ. And that's not just it's the body and blood of Christ. I know it looks like bread and wine, but physically, it's the body and the blood of Christ. So when we walk across, we cross ourselves. Christ is always here. And it goes to all the other things. I mentioned the daily prayers, but often the conversation becomes, how are you doing about coming to Sunday liturgy? Do you come once a month? Quarterly? Just kind of when you feel like it? Or do you make an effort to come every Sunday? Because surprise, surprise, you show up on any Sunday, we're here to have the liturgy. God is here. We take bread and wine and we offer it. It becomes the body and blood of Christ, and you can partake in that communion as an Orthodox Christian. Every Sunday, God shows up. It's there for you. So it's by participating in these things, the consistency. I know that it can kind of feel like a one-sided thing, but think of how we're dealing with this. The basic message from God is, I'm always here, and I want you to be here, and I want to have this relationship with you. With God, you can do that. These are the terms. But of course, part of this is you have the freedom. I created you with free will. I'm not going to compel anyone to come to divine liturgy. And by virtue of that, too, if God can't compel you, I can't compel you. I'm a stupid priest that some bishop decided it was okay to make me a priest and put me in front of an altar. I can't do what God can't do. And so shame on me if I think I can. There are priests that try and do that. And there are times when I have to catch myself and say, nope, they have free will. They have to choose to be here. But it's not just Sunday liturgy. It's these other things that we talk about. A lot of the conversations that I have with our newcomers, our catechumens, they have the curiosity. And often it's the mechanics. Well, how do I make the sign of the cross? When do I make the sign of the cross? How am I supposed to go over here? What am I supposed to do over here? But it points at this thing about us as Orthodox Christians. We don't go sit in an auditorium and listen to somebody talk and then go home on Sunday. We come and do something. And so we do have icons to look at, and candles to light, and incense to smell. And you stand at certain times, and you sit at certain times, and you make the sign of the cross at certain times. We have this divine drama that's the divine liturgy that you all participate in. But we have other parts of this as well that we look at. I mentioned this last week. We have 12 major feast days during the year. And kind of a constant message that I've had is every Orthodox Christian should come to the feast day liturgies. And so the thing that I fight with every year is the half dozen that came up, I want to confirm them, but the question mark is everyone else who didn't show up. We had the Transfiguration liturgy this last week. It's also the Dormition fast. We had the Paraclesis service Friday evening for the Mother of God. Did we show up for the Mother of God? And as a pointer here, this coming Friday we end the fast with the Feast of the Dormition. We will have liturgy Friday evening. It's another one of the 12 major feasts. Are we consistent about those things? Or are they options? Or the fasting? It's been a fasting season. I guess we're a little past halfway in this fasting season. Is this the first you're hearing of it and thinking of it? It's the consistency. And I know that we start at a certain point, and we struggle with certain things. That's part of the growth and the deepening of the relationship. I'm not so great about coming to feast day liturgies, Father. I have a hard time coming to liturgy consistently on Sunday. So I'll say, okay, let's focus on Sunday. And once you get that habit, let's add the feast day habit. And then let's add the Dormition fast, Paraclesis service habit. And let's add the Great Lent habit of coming for the services on the weekdays during Lent. It accumulates. But if it's just I kind of come on Sunday, it's plateau. And that will get you to a certain extent in your faith. But in those moments when it's hard, it can really crush down. I want to transition a little bit, and then I want to wrap this up here. As you can see, as I said, our spiritual life is a matter of our free will and our choice. And something I haven't had an opportunity to really address this late in the summer. I was able to address it back in the spring when our seniors were graduating high school. And so our seniors, I just realized, they're all going to be going off to college in a matter of a couple of weeks here. And some will still be in the area, but most of them are going somewhere else in the state. Nobody's running off to like Berkeley, California or anything like that. We'll keep them in the state here. They'll still be in Ohio. But this is one of the key transitions where you are leaving a circumstance where you live with your parents, they set the schedule, and they're probably the ones that make sure that you get here on Sunday morning. It's kind of a tricky thing. We kind of flip this switch when people go off to college and say, okay, you have free will, and you have the opportunity now. Don't wait until you get to college to figure out what you're doing about your spiritual life. I gave this advice to one of our other seniors this past week. I said, work on this now, but as soon as you get to school, find the parish that you've already looked up, and find the priest that you've already contacted, and arrange to go to church there. And because there is more that is thrown at you in college in terms of temptation, you get to live in dorms with strangers who do all sorts of things. Part of the conversation with the priest is when you're coming to your first confession with them. I'm happy to wait, happy to see you Thanksgiving, Christmas when you come home for the break. But I guarantee you, you're going to struggle hard as soon as you hit the ground. And it's a good idea to arrange to see a priest right away. So we don't want to get caught in this situation. I don't believe I kind of get rolled over by the world and what it wants for us. Belief is not feeling. We may have feelings in our belief. Belief is trust. Belief is a relationship. And our part is our choice to be consistent in engaging in that relationship. Glory to Jesus Christ.